Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Perifery podcast web series on our AI tools. Last time we met with you, we touched on object recognition, one of our awesome tools that we are pushing out to the world. Today, we're going to talk more about our most recent project that we've been really getting fully into the ether. That's a wrong word for it, but whatever. We've been really getting that now pushed out the same way we did our object recognition process. So today we're going to be talking about facial recognition. Now, with that in mind, today you have me, Nick Kind. I am the sales manager of AI here at Perifery, and you have Jason Purr, our CTO of M&E Solutions, who is the brains and brawn behind the development of our AI tools. So you have the smartest and the salesman for our AI tools today. So there you go. So just to start with, I want to go into where facial recognition comes from our company. So when we talk facial recognition, you may have heard about facial recognition for probably 20, 25 years. Jason, would you say it's about that long people have been?
It's been a long time. It's been a long time. Hard to say how long, but it's definitely been a long time considering we're on versions, 10 or 12 of some of these models that we use. So it's been a while.
All right. So when it first came out, obviously AI wasn't taking over every industry at the time. So it wasn't even called facial recognition. Was it facial detection? Would that be a better understanding of it? And could you walk us through a little bit about how it used to work?
Yeah, definitely. And there's a good differentiation there between face detection versus recognition. And we see the same thing on the object side as well, where face detection is purely the technology of being able to look in a video or an image and have a computer be able to detect that, yes, there is in fact a face and what makes up a face. And so where it differs a lot from object recognition is in the world of objects could be anything. They could be any kind of shape. They could have any kind of characteristics. So when we train objects, we're training objects in context, meaning we want to get lots and lots of images of objects in different angles and different kind of poses, different parts of the screen with different backgrounds, because a computer doesn't know what that object is. It could be anything. But with faces, we have a base model, and that's what the detection part is, that knows a face should have two eyes, it should have a nose, it should have a mouth, and those things should all have certain proportions to one another. And so because of that, when we train facial recognition, there's very specific parameters of how we train. And at the end of the day, you have two pieces. You have the recognition model that says, yes, this is in fact a face. And then you have the back end piece that says, okay, now that we know it's a face, how are we going to match this face to a face that we have in our library or a face that we've stored information on in the past? So that's kind of the difference. And that second piece is the recognition piece, really. So you have a model piece and then you have a back end piece. And at this point, we actually leverage 10 different models and backends that are all part of our application. We don't use them all at the same time. We normally might use up to 2 or 3 of these simultaneously to get the best results, but we've done a lot of testing with a lot of different things to really figure out what works best.
So with that in mind, you said 2 to 3 simultaneously, and something I touched on last time, which you were so kind to tell me I was wrong, is are we considered multimodal? Would you consider our face detection tool a multimodal AI model?
Kind of, in terms of the fact that multimodal, the word comes from kind of using multiple models.
Right.
But multimodal, as people talk about it in terms of AI, is normally more referring to a AI that can see, that can hear, and that can read text, which we're doing all those things across our different tools. But things like our ability to watch a video and extract things that are spoken, as well as watching things that happen on screen, that's multimodal. And that's something that's part of our MetaGen utility. With facial recognition, it's kind of its own thing. Be able to normally really talk about it in terms of multimodal, but it is something that we're doing that is multi-model, and using multiple different face models and backends to ensure the most flexibility and the best quality results by being able to do comparisons of results that we get back from one model versus another, so that we can compare accuracy scores and other things to really build up the best possible confidence that we can that the face we find is in fact the face that was being looked for.
Before we created our facial recognition tool, and you were playing around with AI, previous to developing your own, would you say that you found that using like one model at a time just required a lot of work, or it just didn't work? What led you to your approach of using two to 10 models?
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
all simultaneously, but
Usually, yeah. So the sweet spot we found is, for the most part, we're normally using between 1 and 3 models for most people, most use cases.
okay.
And that, the reason why there's a difference there is it depends on the kind of content that we're working with. If we have content that is really well defined and we have a large set of faces to train on, and those faces are super clear, we might find that a single model does perfectly well, and we don't want to overcomplicate things by introducing additional models. But in the other case, where we have more commonly a mixture of some faces have really good training data, other faces have very minimal training data, and you're just never quite sure the quality you're going to get, that's where it becomes important to have multiple models, just so that the AI can kind of check itself and make sure that you're going to get the best possible result.
Okay. And you mentioned a range of complexity of how, sometimes you might only use one model. Could you give me an example of something that would be like super simple, and then the opposite, something that might be hugely complex to recognize?
Definitely. So in the world of, some of the different verticals where we see this being really valuable, when we work with faith-based organizations. In a faith-based organization, you often have less than 10 people that you normally really care about making sure you know every video that these people are in. And oftentimes in those videos, there's 1 or 2 people that are featured throughout the whole video. That's really the only 1 or 2 people you care about. In the world of facial recognition, that's going to be a lot simpler, because you're going to have tons of content across these videos that you already have of these 2 or 3 or 10 people. And you're going to be able to train on that really well and get pretty good results normally, as long as you have some good resolution images to be able to train on in the first place. Conversely, if you look in the world of sports and you take a sports team that might have 20, 30, 40 or 50 members potentially, and then look at that across maybe a 10-year span, you're talking about hundreds of different faces that you might want to recognize. And those hundreds of faces are going to have a wide variety of quality of source images to train on, especially the people from the historic content that you can't go back and create any new images. You only have the images that were shot at the time, because you need that person as they looked at that time. So that's going to be more challenging, and that's where we might want to be comparing more against multiple models to ensure we're going to get the best quality result.
Got it. So we can do the complex and the simple. It just takes more models and a better understanding of where you're going to see the faces and what year those faces are coming from, and even what quality of the camera footage were you dealing with, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, you bring up a lot of complexity in how these AI tools work in the back end. So I guess most of us are all wondering, how easy is that to do? Is it a very complex training process, or is it quite simple? Could you walk us through our training process over at Perifery?
Yeah, definitely. So the training process itself can be incredibly simple. It can be as simple as you have a folder structure that's been identified, where you have a root structure that might say faces or whatever you want to call it. And then within that, you'll normally have a folder named for the person, and then as many images as you can of that person's face in that folder, and as many of those folders as you want for different people. And then when you're ready to run the recognition, it's literally a single command, a single API call, or depending on if you're using something like CatDV or Iconic, it might be a single action that you trigger on that folder that just says train faces. So the end user experience of performing training is very straightforward and can be very easy. What's harder is making sure that what you train on is good quality images for the purpose of face recognition. And what we've done is we've put together a document even to help clarify this for customers and help people understand. Because again, it's not like object recognition where you can just toss in any kind of images that happen to have a person in it and it has that person's face and people think, well, this is great because I'm looking at it in context of how they look from the side or how they look from, you know, the front or this angle or that angle or, you know, really far away and really close. Those things matter when you're doing object recognition. But when you're doing face recognition, that's not what we want at all. We want to have at least 10 to 20 high quality images. We want the person to be 60 to 70% of the frame, the face to be 60, 70% of the frame. We want quality uncompressed formats for the images. And we want to make sure that we have, you know, some different backgrounds, different times of day, different locations maybe, but we need to make sure that the person themselves is always in sharp focus. The facial features are really clear. There's no motion blur. There's nothing obscuring the face, no kind of helmets or mask or any other kind of artificial things that could be on the face. And then we want to make sure that the lighting is natural, that we're not looking at, you know, a lot of shadow on the eyes because they're wearing hats all the time, or, you know, that it's a very strongly backlit situation, right? We want to have just these good set of images. And if you have that good set of images, then again, you don't need too many. Literally 10 to 20 images can be enough for each person. And when we run that training, then what you're able to do is run that training and then just start testing it out and see how it performs. And the cool thing is even though you can run the training by selecting a folder that has all the people in it, you can also at any time select a folder that is just one person and completely remove their training data if you're getting bad results, or train additional data on just that one person, you know, so that you can really work with it to refine it. And that's where we train our own internal people like our solution architects, but we also train all our partners and how to do this process. Because the training of your faces is something that, again, if you're something like a sports team, it's going to be an evolving process over time because players come and go. And as new players come in, you're going to want to gather that data and run another training process so that you can get more and more information.
Got it. Thanks for walking through that. I know that a lot of people were scared about using any AI tool because of the complexity of it. And I think what we've done at Perifery is simplify that and make it a lot easier for any company to contact us and work with us on getting facial recognition, just as well as object recognition we discussed last week. So with that in mind, we are currently integrated with CatDV and with Iconic and with our own Vision product. Could you walk us through where you see our AI tool going in the future and how you see getting this into the hands of our community?
Definitely. Well, one of the really important points there is the way that we are integrated with Iconic, CatDV, and Vision is all happening through our own API. And we have a very powerful API. Part of the way that we've designed AI Plus is that we have different modules like facial recognition, object recognition, and metadata generation that all feed into a central core called our notification API. And that notification API has a really robust set of RESTful APIs, which are designed for our team as well as partners to be able to leverage, to be able to integrate into any other system they wish. So if you have AI Plus, we'll generate all that data. And then we have the core systems we're going out to today, but then people have the ability through the API to extend that further and integrate and capture this data and send it into many other systems. And not just asset management systems, but being able to use this information within your website, use it within your other own custom applications. There's a lot of things that can be done there. And the support side of AI Plus is such that we will provide support for the API, just like we provide support for the application in general. So we really want to encourage partners to be able to leverage that API and be able to build some awesome things.
Awesome. So thank you for walking through the facial recognition without any demo content. So one thing just so that everyone else knows is every single one of these talks that Jason and I are doing, we will in the future be launching a less podcasty and much more webinar focused, showcasing how the tool works and how to actually see it. So those of you getting excited about this, but you're like, but where's the facial recognition? You just see Jason and Nick. We get it, and we are aware. We wanted to make sure we could reach you whether you're watching or on audio. So coming soon, we will begin our demo process to show you guys how it looks. That said, you can see it at any conference that we attend, and we've done a fair few of them, and we'll do a fair few more every single quarter, essentially. So if you haven't seen us yet, we are looking forward to getting that launched as well. Also, we have one final video we're going to do on our MetaGen tool, which we will be doing next month. So you guys can look forward to that as well. And that will also cover our auto translation tool. So we will be covering 2 at once next week, just so that you guys all can get a view of our top AI tools that we're working on. One final thought, Jason. Where do you see, and if you don't have an answer, that's totally all right, but where do you see AI going in the future, going into 2025? Just so everyone knows, this is being recorded at the end of November. So we're getting to 2025.
Yes. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we're just seeing better and better quality results happening all the time. Our focus within Perifery is to be utilizing on-premise AI that you can run in your facility, no cloud required. And that side of the AI world is always a couple steps behind what some of the guys are doing with the online models and the really big models that just couldn't be run on-prem. And what we've seen over the last year is that gap has been closing very, very quickly. And many of the on-prem models that we run today, in a lot of circumstances, can get results that are just as good as the cloud models for many workflows and for many specific use cases. Now, it's not for all use cases. There are definitely certain things you would never be able to do on-prem because it requires a massive model. But for a vast majority of the use cases that we see of being able to pull metadata out of video content, being able to understand that content, being able to tag things effectively and generate all this different kind of metadata, the on-prem models we've seen work really well, and I think that's just going to continue to get better and better. The other thing is that we're seeing a lot of stuff happen as far as the ability to generate voices and be able to have better communication back and forth. And that's going to help inform us being able to do some of the fun things that we've showcased in the past and talked about with some other things that we're working on in the experimental stages. So there's going to be some fun stuff coming with that. And then the world of AI agents is just still starting to get more and more popular and more and more resources behind it. And so I think we're going to see a huge explosion over the next year of AI agents, and a lot of the different things that we're going to enable through that capability is going to be really powerful next year for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the wise words. I will sign off from here. So thank you guys for all joining us today, and we look forward to meeting with you next week, or next month rather. Have a good weekend, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.